Hey, Jen.
Hi, Dana. Welcome, everyone, to Hypnosis
Hypnosis
and
and
Beyond.
beyond. Jen, I notice you have on your shelf behind you an adorable looking rabbit with a sleep mask.
Yes, rabbits are my spirit animal because it is my Chinese sign. And of course, I have the sleep mask because we have the wonderful Gila Zak on today discussing dream therapy.
We are so lucky. She's incredible.
She
Why don't you
is.
tell us, for those of our listeners who don't know, give us a little bio of her, would you?
I would be honored to. Gila Zak is considered a hypnotist. Gila Zak maintains a full-time practice in Los Osos, California. She's a featured presenter at conferences and various professional and medical organizations and is the creator of the gallery and the process, the two minds technique. She is an honors graduate of HMI, the College of Hypnotherapy, and a recipient of the prestigious Director's Award. She's a certified IEMT practitioner, sexual freedom practitioner, and holds a certificate in the advanced handwriting analysis. Her passion is espousing on all things hypnotic and teaching individuals and groups about human behavior and the creative ways we can access and harness the subconscious mind to create meaningful change.
I mean, if that doesn't show you why we're so excited to talk with her today, I don't know what would.
And without further ado,
Good morning, Gila.
Good morning.
hi, Sheila.
Hi, Jen.
Thank you for joining us on Hypnosis and Beyond.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
thanks for having me.
We were hoping today you could talk to us about your dream therapy. What led you to explore that?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I've always been curious about dreams like most people. I was raised in a kind of counterculture, hippy dippy kind of environment. And so, these kinds of things were talked about, and dreams were considered to have different meanings and be important. But when I became a hypnotist, part of my training, I trained at HMI, College of Hypnotherapy in Tarzana, California. And there, dream therapy is part of the curriculum. And so, Dr. Kappas, who founded the college back in the 70s, he was a big proponent of using dreams as a way to support our clients' therapy outside of the sessions, and also to be able to use the dreams as a resource for people when they're struggling with something. So becoming interested in as of my training, but then, there's more that you want to explore. So I just started looking at the whole of dream theory, because in truth, no one really knows what dreams mean. People can tell us what they think it is, but do we really know? I mean, that's the mystery of it. So that kind of makes it magical to me.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on sort of the rows of bookshelves at bookstores? This symbol means this and this symbol means that, and
Yeah.
you know,
Well, I think there's a general validity to that if you're thinking about statistics. So I'm an open-minded skeptic. I think everything is possible, but what's the information? Let me taste that, try that for myself. Let me explore that, read about it. Is there any information, data? So when we think of dream symbols, statistically, you could say if someone dreams of this, it's likely to mean this. But the truth is, overall, symbols can mean something so individual. So, Jen, you grew up in an area that's very different from mine to a large degree. You're in a different country, you have different cultural, things that mean something to you. So, very likely our symbols might be different. Now, they're not vastly different because we're still in North America, right? But symbols mean something unique to who we are overall. So, let's just say, Dana, for example, you were a champion, horse rider when you were young, or maybe even today, right? You do dressage. You're just this accomplished equestrian, and I got kicked in the head when I was 5 years old by a horse. So if we both dream of a horse, that's going to mean something very different to us, isn't it? So that's when I think about the books. Take them with a grain of salt. They're there, but really, what does the symbol mean to you intuitively?
yeah. Well, so you mentioned HMI. We both studied there. And it really is interesting the amount of emphasis they really do put on that. And I think it's logical in the sense that we are asleep for so many hours of the day. I
Mhm.
mean, is that sort of why you think there is an emphasis on being able to learn from it? Because so much of our day is spent in this dream state?
I do. And I think because of when, I mean, what do we mean by learning? We're always learning, right? We're taking in something like 11 million bits of information per second, of only a fraction of which we're conscious aware, like 4 million, whatever the number is. And so, yeah, we're always learning. And we know that the subconscious mind never sleeps, not even in natural sleep. And in hypnotic sleep, it's doing its thing, working with us and helping our clients facilitate change. But in natural sleep, it's not sleeping. It's always integrating, processing, consolidating memories, filtering, predicting, problem solving, and then also venting. And so, yeah, I think it is important because there's so much we can. Let's put it this way. If you are learning something during the daytime, let's just say you're learning a new skill, when you go to sleep at night, your subconscious mind is going to integrate that learning and consolidate it into a working memory for you. So, yeah, we are learning in our sleep. It's just a different kind of learning.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Interesting. So when you talk about the different kinds of dreams and the
Mhm.
different purpose of them, could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So, you both I attended, I think, my talk at Hypnothoughts on dream theory and dream
Yes.
therapy. Thank you, by the
It's
way. I'm always
amazing.
excited when anybody's
Amazing.
interested in something I have to
It
say.
was a packed house,
Sure
by the
did.
way.
But yeah, so I like to incorporate all the theories of why we dream, and as neuroscience progresses, we can get more of a clinical understanding of what dreams may be doing. But as far as why dreams are important and the different types of dreams, what I loved about Dr. Kappas is that when you look at the dream theories that people are putting forward today, he already kind of had a sense of that. And so, the idea being that some of the stuff that he was espousing through his dream therapy, theory is playing
Mhm.
itself out in the way that they're starting to research it. Now, honestly, I don't know if they already knew this back then and it was just some obscure research that he found, or if he intuited it. Or my theory is that he experienced it in working with his clients. So, with the different types of dreams, we're going to talk, kind of Capucinian, but also overall. So, dreams can be a mental rehearsal for life. So, for example, if someone is having a repetitive dream about something, good or bad, whatever it is, that could be a cue that we are mentally rehearsing for something. Dreams, we know, are there to, as we're taught to process, integrate, predict, and then release neurological, psychological, and physiological stress. So I like to tell people, you ever had that experience where you lay down and you go to sleep, you're falling asleep, and you can feel yourself drifting off, and then all of a sudden you're having this visual where you're walking up some stairs or down some stairs. This is for me. Or you're walking and then you stub your toe and then you do this big jerk and then you're awake and then you're like, oh,
Mhm.
and then we fall
Yes.
asleep right after that. Right after that is when we just dip out into sleep. And that is what we believe because we have all this neurological and physiological muscle tension and stress. And this is the way for the subconscious to say, I need to let that shit go so that you can relax your muscles and go into that, more, that tonic kind of sleep. So there's that kind of dream, right? Which is that's that way of just that first initial phase of letting things go. The theory is then that the dreams we have between like 1 and 4 in the middle of a night, depending upon when you go to sleep, those are the dreams where we're trying to problem solve or predict. So this is where repetitive dreams come in, nightmares. If our clients are having repetitive nightmares and they're happening at this stage, it's thought that the problem is either too big and the subconscious doesn't know what to do with it, or it's an ongoing thing and we don't know how to resolve it. So this is where different
Mhm.
types of nightmares we can look and see what they mean. And then we go into the dreams that we have right before we awaken for the day, what we call the venting dreams. That's where we've problem solved it in the middle of the night. We've taken the Rubik's Cube, we've solved it. And then when we wake up in the morning, we just chuck the Rubik's Cube over our shoulder, let that shit go, and
Yeah.
wake up. So this is why our clients will say, Gila, I'm working with you for social anxiety, but the last 3 days I've had these dreams right before I wake up where, I'm there in a crowd with no clothes on, or everybody's judging me. And I'm like, that's right. Reach around and thank your subconscious. You're still venting and letting go of this concept of being, not comfortable socially. So
That's wow. I
Yeah.
love it. Thank you for explaining all that. How would you respond to a client that would say, I don't remember my dreams or I don't dream?
I would say, that's not unusual. Often what happens when people say they don't dream is they're just not remembering their dreams. Because everybody dreams. If you're not dreaming, you are going to be in such a state of emotional and psychological and even physiological distress. And we'll get to that in a minute. But when people, it's usually because they're taking some sort of medication that may be inhibiting their dream cycle, or it's causing them not to dream the way they could, or they're falling asleep in such a way that when they come out, they're coming out so quick that they don't remember their dreams. Because for any of us who've kind of gone through that theta, especially in the morning where you're waking up and you're like, oh, wait, I'm dreaming. But then you go back into the dream and you're there, and then you come out of it and you remember the dream. But some people, it's my belief, they come out so quickly that there's not that time to be in that dreamy theta to remember the experience.
Yeah.
And, this is why I say people, oh, I don't dream. Yeah, you dream. You have to dream. One of the studies that they did is they took a group of people and they said, okay, we're going to keep you awake for 48 hours or 72 hours, whatever it was. And we're not going to be allowed to sleep at all. And then they took another group of people and said, all right, we're going to allow you to sleep, but we're going to hook you up to these EEG machines. And as soon as we see that you're starting to dream, we're going to wake you up, just wake you up. So you're allowed to sleep, but not dream. And then the third group of people was just allowed to sleep and dream and do their thing. And what they found is that the people who were not allowed to sleep at all and the people who were not allowed to dream experienced the same amount of emotional deterioration and stress. Now, when the study was over, obviously the people who weren't allowed to sleep, you never really can make up the sleep. At least that's what people are believing. The theories go back and forth on that. But what they found is that when they monitored the people who were not allowed to dream, when they were allowed to sleep, they dreamt more. They monitored extra dream cycles, extra dream experiences, and that was the subconscious's way of catching up on venting and releasing. So the beautiful thing there is that number one, in my opinion, it tells us how important the dreams are. Even if we don't know what the fuck they do, for real.
Yeah.
They're important.
Right.
Because the subconscious and the body says, I need this experience. And so even if I was deprived it, I can catch up on that. And I just think that's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
It makes you feel sorry for the people in the study that weren't allowed to. I mean, that was generous of them to donate their time, but
Well, I think they were military personnel, so you don't get a choice, right? You get to be the,
right.
the lab rats.
They were told what to do, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, so then when you work with a client, are you saying that regardless of what they come to you for, dreams are part of your treatment plan no matter what? Is that
Yeah.
kind of what you're
Generally speaking, especially if someone comes in for depression, because people who are depressed are very likely not dreaming the way they should. And so one of the things that they notice, through hypnotic suggestion, we can, suggest to the subconscious mind, you're going to begin dreaming more effectively, remembering your dreams. Your dreams will be able to, whatever the suggestions are you want to give them. And then through the person dreaming and venting, you can oftentimes see the depression lifting. And here is where the dream therapy is really important, because I give my clients a dream journal. And I say, as you start to remember your dreams, just write down what you remember. Number one, the emotion or feeling in the dream. That's the most important. That's what the subconscious is trying to work with. Secondary are the symbols, the locations, the people. And then, write down whatever fragments you can, and then bring that into your sessions. And number one, it's suggesting to the client that you're going to remember your dreams. Number two, it's giving them a tool that when they do start to remember the dreams, and they will, that, oh, wow, I am starting to remember. So it builds this sense of, proof. Oh yeah, look, this is working. But the caveat there is that so often people who are depressed are on antidepressants, which can sometimes inhibit the dreams. So this is where hypnosis is freaking golden, because we know that the dreaming is an active hallucination that's brought forth from the subconscious mind. So we can mirror that in trance with our clients. And so I tell people who are, going through severe depression or whatever, we're going to elicit the same thing that would happen if you were remembering your dreams, if you were dreaming more. And so what you experience here with me today is what we're going to tell the subconscious mind you're going to do more of on your own. So the hypnosis itself is a venting experience. And the first thing I do with clients who are depressed is say, let's just vent and release whatever your subconscious mind needs to, so that you feel less depression and more expansion. So that's kind of the way I would approach it.
I love it.
Wow, this is just, people are going to just.
Jen and I are like, wow. Can you just keep talking? We just want.
Questions I had was, I know that there's so much emphasis now on sleep, like just having good sleep and having routines. The fact that you have to go to sleep at maybe like 10 o'clock, so that by 11 o'clock, you're really relaxed. People who are into these habits, do you notice that their dreams start to be more positive? Or is it reflected in what they're remembering as far as their dreams go?
The dreams are going to reflect what's going on in their daily life. So if someone's going along and they're not having any particular out of the ordinary struggles or conflict or stress, then we're just going to be venting out whatever stimulus we took in during the day. Those dreams are going to be, they're never going to make sense to the logical mind. They're not supposed to, but they're going to be the average run of the day, dreams. If the person is experiencing a lot of conflict or stress or distress in their life, then the dreams are going to reflect that. They're going to be more troublesome, because that's the subconscious working it through and letting it go. But as to your question about when people go to sleep, that is important. And sleep is there. That's the one thing I think that's not debatable, is how important sleep is. We know we need this. There's so many regenerative and restorative processes that happen during sleep. So, so often, especially in Western culture, we don't value doing nothing. We're considered to be human doings instead of human beings. And so, sleep isn't particularly valued, because if we're not productive, who are we? And I used to feel that way. I worked, it taken me a little while to get over that. But when we find that balance between doing and being, then we can create a space for going to sleep at night at a more appropriate time. The problem is that a lot of people use their bed for scrolling on their phone, being on their tablet. I had a person recently who came to me for sleep issues, and we're kind of going through the discovery. I said, well, tell me what it's like for you when you go to sleep. Well, my husband's next to me snoring, but I've got the TV on and I've got my tablet and I'm like, shopping. And then I've got my phone over here and I'm answering some texts. And I said, well, no wonder you can't fucking sleep. No wonder you can't go to sleep. You're telling your brain, I've got all these things I need to pay attention to. And so you're in that beta. You're not giving yourself time and space to unwind. So, Dana, as you know, we were taught the bed is for sleep and sex. That's it. Yeah. And if you're somebody who, like me, reading helps you to wind down the brain and go to sleep, then by all means read in bed, because that narrows our focus of attention and that gets us into that alpha state, which is the gateway into sleep. But yeah, we do have to take a certain responsibility for our habits and behaviors. And this is where getting compliance with clients can be challenging, because a lot of people don't want to break that habit. But my suggestion would be every night, just go to bed 15 minutes earlier. If you're used to going to bed at midnight, go to bed at 11:45. Do that for 2 or 3 days, and then just keep going backward until you get to an appropriate time. Does that answer your question, Jen?
Absolutely. That's wonderful.
Well, so then, how about people who work the night shift? I mean, how much is circadian rhythms part of this? And is it more just about getting the sleep rather than the time of the day? Like, how does that work?
Generally speaking, it's not as healthy and helpful for people to work the night shift. And that is because of our circadian rhythms. And this is something that they can measure and follow in people. You do have the occasional person who can thrive and do okay with the night shift, but in general, it is going to take a toll on the body because we're not designed to be awake during that particular time. So it's unfortunate that there are jobs that require night shift, like nurses and firefighters and, first responders and, factory workers, whatever it is. Some of those jobs, by design, they have people working around the clock because it's a production kind of a thing. But for those jobs where people have to work, for public service, I would say as long as they are getting some decent quality sleep in a very dark room when they are not on shift, then between diet, hydration, and maybe some self-regulation practices, I can see how they would be able to keep that balance. But on the whole, people generally don't make time for that kind of a thing. So over time, we can see weight problems, we can see blood pressure problems, sometimes heart rhythm problems. So yeah, it's, I feel for people who have to work the night shift because some people don't have a choice. You can't buy yourself healthy overall because remember, we don't get to make up lost sleep. And in general, if you think about, I practice very clinically and very metaphysically and all points in between, just depends on who I'm working with. But if you think of it energetically, our environments in the middle of the night are quiet. There's just less movement. There's less TVs on, less computers running, less cars and buses and trucks, and there's less movement. So energetically, it's my theory, it's very conducive to the body matching that rhythm of sleep. Whereas during the day when you're sleeping, you might be in your room with your earplugs on and your thing over your eyes and your room is dark, but there's still a shit ton of activity going on around you. So here is where I would give a suggestion to a client if they did have to be in the situation. Well, while you're sleeping in the day, let's create the hypnotic suggestion that you're in this inverted time zone, inverted time frame, so that when you go to sleep, you can go into a parallel universe where it's nighttime. And then when you wake up, it's, so there's different ways to play with it with clients and get creative, and that's what I love about what we do.
That's wonderful. So there are answers through the magic of hypnosis for people who don't have a choice and are in that situation. That's great to know. Excellent.
Hypnosis is magic.
It's
magical.
Yes, I agree.
Well, so you talked about some of the things with your clients, in particular, a dream journal. Is it a whole process? Let's say I come to you today and I'd like to start working with you to remember my dreams more and learn from them. What would be our starting point? What's your process with that?
The starting point would be getting your perceptions and your beliefs around dreams, and then using hypnotic suggestion to change that. If someone says, "Oh, I can't dream," well, let's shift that perception, because if we believe we can't dream, then, or we're not going to remember our dreams, then that's what we're going to experience. And then secondary, I would tell the person each night before you go to sleep, you're going to write for the first, let's just say, few weeks, I remember my dreams easily and often. I remember my dreams easily and often. Some form of a statement like that, because we are at our most naturally suggestible state right before we go to sleep. So if you're writing each and every night, I remember my dreams often and easily, you're priming the subconscious to do that. And then in the morning when you wake up, what you do remember, all I remember is coming out of the dream feeling nervous. Okay, write that down. I had this dream. I don't remember it all, but I remember feeling nervous. And then as we open that pipeline for information to be remembered, that then starts to build the cycle of expectation of change. So that's where I would start. The first few weeks or the first couple of weeks, I remember my dreams often and easily. After that, what it would be is you can tell your subconscious mind, I need a solution to XYZ. In my dreams, I find the solution to XYZ. Write that every night. And then just that, the subconscious mind can start to work for you in dream time as that comes forward. And then dream therapy, for me, honestly, the most that I use it for is when people have repetitive dreams, nightmares, night terrors. Uh, I've had a number of clients over the years who come to me because they get up and they're acting out their dreams. And I've had women who turn around and start beating on their husbands, and they're just like, stop, get it. And the husband's like, I had one woman come to me and she's like, my husband says he's going to divorce me if I don't stop beating him up at night. And, of course, I'm sure it was hyperbole for her, but it turns out that she had a sexual assault experience that had happened to her when she was younger. And she had gone to talk therapy. She had worked through it to the degree that it wasn't consciously causing her to feel anxious in her environment. But then she experienced a situation where she's watching TV, she's watching news, and we're very hypersuggestible watching any kind of thing on a screen. And she was seeing stories about, it was right around the Me Too kind of era. She was seeing all these stories of women. So guess what happens? The subconscious says, okay, I cognitively worked through that issue, but I still have the memory of that experience, and men aren't safe. So in dream time, she was waking up, mistaking her husband for the perpetrator years ago. Once we go into hypnosis and we say, okay, we're going to 2-3 times dissociate you from the actual experience of the dream, but we're going to go back into the dream and you're going to step into it. But this time through hypnosis, you get to act it out in a way that's different for you. And that's where we can use dream therapy if it's a repetitive dream.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
And then I get the letter from the husband. Thank you so much.
Yeah, really.
I don't fear for my mortal safety anymore when I'm asleep.
Sounds like a great referral source, right?
Yeah.
You save their marriage. You say, she worked through something major. That's amazing.
And again, because it was an experience that we had that was so big that the subconscious didn't quite know what to do with it. And so and there was a daily cue, a trigger that came in and reactivated that memory to the degree where, came out of it.
Yeah. Wow. So in general, then, would you, and of course, everybody's different as we know, but if someone were to come to you and say, I'd like to remember my dreams or I'd like to work through dreams, what would be a general timeline then of when they, if they did this, I'm going to remember my dreams, the nightly routines and in the morning, what's a general time frame?
Generally, I see people are noticing a shift within a couple of weeks, from a few days to a couple of weeks. And, there's other ways to teach people to go into the dream state. And we did one of the exercises in the presentation, and that is creating for your client a way as they go to sleep to cross the threshold into dream world. So when we couple the mantras with, okay, let's create a dream portal, let's create a dreamscape, a way in which you can cross over from the waking state into the dream state, then through visualization and activation of the unconscious mind, just through this practice going to sleep at night, that can kind of speed up how quickly someone's going to remember their dreams more. And so example of this would be, my personal favorite is to just roll the eyes up under the lids when your eyes are closed and just imagine that you're opening a third eye door, a third eye window or a door. And then you walk through that. And if you need to, you open another one and another one. And with every door that you open, it's just maybe the door changes and looks older or ancient or magical or some type of fantasy door. Until you open that door into whether it's outer space or a dreamscape or any place that the client wants to create as a way to slip into dream time. I had someone said, oh, after the third door, I hop on the back of a Pegasus and off I fly. I was like, ooh, That's nice.
Wonderful.
That can kind of supercharge, the ability to remember your dreams more easily, because you're starting the active hallucination as you fall off to sleep.
Interesting. So then would you consider sort of the ancient art of counting sheep? Is that it's sort of along those lines, or?
It can be. I mean, for some people, the conscious mind loves numbers. And the subconscious mind is always seeking to keep us in a state of safety and self-preservation. So for some people, numbers work really well because maybe they're very analytical. And to them, too weird to do the third eye window. Well, what's the third eye? I don't believe in a third eye, So if you've got somebody who's more analytical, then, you could have, numbers counting. Each number comes in and fades, but in this case, I'd say any way that we as therapists can make it more into sleep. Or maybe the sheep jumps to the right so that you've left behind the day. Or maybe the sheep jumped to the left so that you've left whatever that sheep means to you. But with numbers, that's just the idea of the structure that some people need. And then I would say make it dynamic by, okay, every number has a different color or it fades, because then you're kind of directing the client to be more engaged with the process of counting.
I love it. I mean, Gila, we just want to sit here all day.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I'm going into dreamyland.
We didn't have anything else planned for your day today. Well, that does bring us to one of our fun segments that we would love for you to partake in.
Sure.
And that is, we call it our silly subconscious question.
Okay.
So the question,
be careful. I have to warn you. Sorry. I apologize for interrupting. My subconscious can be a bit naughty, so I can't guarantee what's going to come up. All right. Throw it out.
We don't mind that. This is
throw it to me.
We want the real you, so we're not interested in edited versions. Okay. So here is our silly subconscious question. Would you rather be able to speak to animals or speak every language on the planet? And
ooh, I want to speak to animals. That's an easy one.
And are there any animals in particular that you would speak to first?
Probably birds. Because birds, they got the bird's eye view. They can travel here to there. They inhabit both the heavenly realm and the earthly realm, and they're just really cool, I think. So yeah, birds would be the first one.
Nice.
Yeah. Then after that, probably cats.
That brings us to Jen's.
Yeah. I mean, you're just an incredibly fascinating person. So beyond everything that you're doing in the hypnotic world and bringing to us, what are some passions that people may or may not know about you?
I am forever passionate about learning the way that humans behave and why. I mean, I'm always curious about learning why somebody feels the way they feel, and I'm genuinely curious. And when I was very small, my mom said, you were late to talk because you were number 3, but when you did start talking, all you did was ask questions. And I think I still do that. I'm really, really passionate about trying to understand human behavior. And when the pandemic started and we had some extra time on our hands, and you're seeing this incredible experience of human behavior go in every fucking direction, my mind went, how is it that people get involved in cults? How is it that people get involved in conspiracy theories? How is it? Because I wanted to understand this behavior. And because when we look at it, we're just being human. But I get really, really passionate about it. A friend of mine, I recently took a training in metaphors of movement. I don't know if any of you have heard of that. But there's a trainer here in the US, Dale Turnbull, who's kind of bringing it to the area. And we were doing an exercise in the class, in the practice. And he says, okay, we're going to talk about voids and holes. Like if someone says I have a hole in my heart, or, I'm gutted. And so he's like, everybody has a hole somewhere. And I'm like, I don't have any holes. Nope. I'm like, nope, I don't feel particularly void of anything. I don't feel particularly empty of anything. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, I found it. And it was like behind my eyes in my head. And then when I did the exercise, it was apparent that that hole is just, I just want to keep learning new things. And I just want to keep understanding why people behave the way they behave. And I know I can be annoying as fuck to some people sometimes because they'll bring something up and I'm like, really, that's interesting. Ooh. So because I really do want to fill that hole. I want to know what's going on.
Well, that really works hand in hand with being a great hypnotherapist because curiosity is so important with your client.
And I think to be curious without judgment and without thinking what it's
Mhm.
supposed to be.
Mhm.
Because we know as hypnotists that, excuse me, that the subconscious mind knows better than you or I or any therapist out there. It knows better than the client at a cognitive level what the issue is. And so the issue is often not the issue. And so if we go in as hypnotists and presuppose, oh, it must be a past life issue. Oh, it must be childhood trauma. Oh, it must be this, that, or the other, then we're really doing a disservice. One of the areas that this comes into play a lot is I get a lot of referrals from pelvic floor therapists from women and for women. And, they'll say, this person has vaginismus. They're unable to get a tampon in. They've never been able to have sex. And we're working in therapy, but we can't, the body is not releasing that tension. And for anybody who doesn't know, vaginismus is an extreme tightening of the vaginal muscles. And so people often assume, well, there must be sexual trauma. But more often than not, it's not. As a therapist, we can't assume, because it's been my experience with these people, that it's the social constructs of how we're taught to believe about sex, how we're taught to believe about our bodies, our vaginas, our vulvas. Those are the things we hear. One woman, her older sister told her, it's going to hurt like hell when you put that tampon in. It's going to hurt like hell. And so she took that suggestion in and she somatized it. And so, of course, when she tried to put one in, it hurt like hell and it reinforced the association. There was no sexual trauma there. But, as women of a certain generation, I came of age in the mid 80s. And so coming up through late 70s, early 80s, it was everything on TV. It was like the douche commercials and the vaginal sprays because, we're just so stinky and smelly and there's something wrong with it.
What happened to those?
I don't know, but thank God they're gone. So think about the social messaging there, So the idea being that we think we know what the issue is, but it's not necessarily the issue.
Yeah. Well, so for our audience, how can they find you and what are some of the projects that you're into these days?
Well, I have my website. It's quantumwaveshypnotherapy.com. I also have 2 YouTube channels. One of them I've had for a little while now where it's Quantum Waves Hypnotherapy on YouTube. And that has just a couple of short little audios and some fun videos that if I have an idea, I call my son who's a sound engineer, professional musician. He can do all this stuff. I said, hey, I got this idea for a video I want to do on, nightmares. And then we put together this short little fun kitschy film, right? And then he edits it and does all that. So that's what the YouTube Quantum Waves Hypnotherapy is. And I will be putting more short audios on there next year. The other channel I just started, it's brand new and it is on YouTube as well. And it's the G-Spot Hypnotherapy.
Nice.
Incredible.
Excellent.
Well, thank you so much, Gila, for being with us today. We are so grateful. Peace out.
Peace out.
Bye.
Wow, Jen, what an interview. I think you and I were mesmerized and entranced the whole time.
Yeah, she has an incredible hypnotic voice.
She does. And I am just so grateful that she came on. And if you feel that way about the content, please don't forget to like, subscribe, share with a friend. We sure would appreciate it.
Thanks for exploring with us.
Yes.
Peace out.
Peace out.